I saved her cat's life that rainy night, then saved her father's business when crisis struck. I became her hero, her rock, her perfect fiancée. But at our wedding, she publicly called her ex the love of her life as a joke. So I walked out. Now she's crying, begging me to come back, while still texting him. Some pranks reveal the ugly truth, and mine was believing she ever chose me. My name is Blake Harrington. I'm 36 years old and the proud owner of Harrington Animal Hospital in Portland. That night started like any other emergency call. A distraught pet owner, a sick animal, and me dropping everything to help. Little did I know it would change the entire course of my life. The woman pacing outside my clinic was soaked to the bone, clutching a pet carrier with white knuckles. Lauren Wilkins, though I didn't know her name then, had the most striking blue eyes I'd ever seen, even rimmed red from crying over her Siamese cat. "Please, he's all I have," she pleaded as I unlocked the doors. The cat had ingested something toxic, and it took every ounce of my expertise to save him. 3 hours of touch-and-go surgery later, her Felix was stabilized. The gratitude in Lauren's eyes hit me like a punch to the gut. There was something about the way she looked at me, like I was some kind of hero, that made me stand a little taller. "Most vets would have turned me away this late," she said, wiping away tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "Coffee would be a start," I heard myself say, surprising us both. Our first date turned into our second, then our fifth, then suddenly we were 6 months in, and I couldn't remember what life was like before her. Lauren was vibrant and captivating, a PR maven who managed celebrities and their crises with the same calm assurance I handled animal emergencies. I learned about her ex, Austin, in fragments, a bitter remark here, and I roll there. Biggest mistake of my life, she called him. Owner of Lunar, the flashiest nightclub in town, Austin Wallace was everything I wasn't: loud, showy, connected to the city's elite. Lauren claimed he was manipulative, self-centered, and that leaving him was the best decision she'd ever made. "Men like that don't change," she told me one night as we lay in bed. Thank God I found someone real. Being real was something I prided myself on. I worked with my hands, saved lives, and built my business from nothing. When a pipe burst in Lauren's apartment building in the dead of winter, I spent 2 days helping elderly residents relocate, carrying their belongings, and setting up temporary quarters in the community center. Lauren watched me work with something like wonder in her eyes. "My hero," she called me, without a trace of irony. What man doesn't want to be someone's hero? I fell hard and fast, believing I'd found a woman who valued substance over style, someone who saw my worth beyond material flash and status. I was wrong, but that realization was still months away, waiting for me at an altar I would ultimately walk away from, leaving behind the woman I thought I knew and the life I had planned. 8 months into our relationship, Lauren and I faced our first real challenge. Her father, Richard Wilkins, suffered a massive heart attack. I was elbow deep in a surgery when she called, her voice breaking as she explained that her family was gathering at Portland Memorial Hospital. "I don't know what to do, Blake," she sobbed. "Dad's always been invincible." I finished the procedure, arranged emergency coverage for my remaining appointments, and drove straight to the hospital. Lauren collapsed into my arms in the waiting room, her PR-perfect composure shattered. Her mother sat shell-shocked in the corner, while her younger sister paced frantically. "The doctors say it's serious," Lauren whispered against my chest. "They're not sure if he'll make it." For the next 72 hours, I practically lived at that hospital. I made sure Lauren ate, brought fresh clothes for everyone, and coordinated with distant relatives. When Lauren's mother nearly fainted from exhaustion, I convinced her to let me drive her home for a proper rest. When the hospital cafe closed, I found the only open diner in town and brought back hot meals. Small things, really, but sometimes it's the small things that matter most during crisis. On the third night, as we dozed uncomfortably in the waiting room, the surgeon finally emerged with good news. Richard had stabilized. He'd need bypass surgery and months of recovery, but he'd make it. The relief in that moment was palpable, but it came with a new set of challenges. Richard ran a construction company that couldn't simply shut down while he recovered. Lauren's brother-in-law tried to step in, but he was overwhelmed within days. "Dad's biggest client is threatening to pull their contract," Lauren told me one evening, her eyes hollow with worry. "That business is his legacy. If it falls apart while he's recovering, I'm not a construction expert, but I understand business. The next morning, I postponed all non-emergency appointments at my clinic and accompanied Lauren's brother-in-law to the client meeting. These corporate types expected to intimidate him. They didn't expect me. Mr. Wilkins' health situation is temporary, I told them firmly. But your decision today will have permanent consequences for your project. You can restart with a new contractor who doesn't know your needs, or you can show a little humanity and give this company 2 weeks to reorganize. I laid out a transition plan I'd sketched the night before. By the end of the meeting, not only had they agreed to stay, they'd extended their timeline with minimal penalties. When Lauren found out what I'd done, she looked at me differently, like she was truly seeing me for the first time. Nobody's ever fought for my family like that before, she said that night, curled against me in her childhood bedroom, where we were staying to help her mother. Austin would have seen Dad's illness as an inconvenience. I didn't like being compared to her ex, but the comparison flattered me. That's what you do for people you love, I said simply. That night, Lauren whispered that she was falling in love with me. 2 weeks later, as her father began his recovery, she moved into my lakeside home. Life seemed perfect, but even as we settled into domestic bliss, I occasionally caught Lauren checking her phone with an odd expression or stepping away to take calls in private. At the time, I chalked it up to work stress. Trust comes easily when you believe in someone completely. A year into our relationship, I decided to propose to Lauren. I designed the perfect ring, an emerald surrounded by diamonds that matched her eyes. The plan was simple but meaningful. A sunset proposal at the animal sanctuary where we'd volunteered together. That evening, surrounded by the creatures we'd helped save, I dropped to one knee. Lauren's eyes filled with tears as she said yes. Everything felt right, almost. The strange moment came later, at our celebration dinner. Lauren excused herself to freshen up, but was gone nearly 20 minutes. When she returned, her makeup looked untouched, but she seemed different, distracted. I caught a glimpse of her phone screen as she slipped it into her purse. A text conversation with someone saved as A.W. Austin Wallace, her supposedly horrible ex. Everything okay? I asked. Just work, she replied too quickly. A celebrity client having a meltdown. I chose to believe her. After all, we'd just gotten engaged. My doubts seemed petty in the face of our commitment. Planning the wedding brought Lauren's parents into our lives more deeply. Her father had recovered well and took me fishing one weekend while Lauren and her mother discussed venues. I wasn't sure about you at first, Richard admitted as we cast our lines into the still lake. Lauren's taste in men hasn't always been the best. You mean Austin? I asked, seizing the rare opportunity to learn more. Richard's expression darkened. That flashy nightclub owner? He charmed her for years. On again, off again drama. Lauren would cry about how terrible he was, then run back to him a month later. We thought she was finally done with him when she met you. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Lauren had told me they dated briefly. Not years. Not on and off. And certainly not that she'd repeatedly gone back to him. When Lauren's sister visited the following week, she accidentally let slip another revelation. It's nice seeing Lauren settled down. After she and Austin broke up at New Year's, we weren't sure she'd ever. She stopped, noticing my confusion. Sorry, I thought you knew they were together until right before she met you. That timeline didn't work. Lauren and I had met in October. If she'd been with Austin until January, she'd been seeing both of us for months. I confronted Lauren that night, keeping my tone measured despite my racing heart. It was complicated, she admitted, eyes downcast. Austin and I were technically broken up when I met you, but we still talk sometimes. I ended everything completely once I realized how serious we were becoming. I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. No more secrets, I said firmly. I need complete honesty from now on. Of course, she promised, kissing me deeply. You're the only one I want. 2 days later, I found an invitation to Austin's nightclub opening in our mail, addressed personally to Lauren. She claimed she had no idea how it got there. 3 months before our wedding, I received an anonymous email with a photo attachment. The sender's address was unfamiliar, just a string of random numbers and letters. I almost deleted it as spam until I saw the subject line. Your fiancée isn't who you think she is. The photo showed Lauren and Austin outside his nightclub, dated just 2 weeks earlier. They weren't kissing or even touching, but their body language spoke volumes. Heads close together, Lauren laughing at something he said, his hand hovering near her waist. I confronted Lauren that evening, trying to keep my voice steady as I showed her the photo on my phone. It's not what it looks like, she insisted, her PR training evident in how quickly she composed herself. Austin's hosting a charity event at Lunar. He wanted our firm to handle publicity, so we had a professional meeting. At midnight, I asked, pointing to the timestamp. You know, nightlife business happens at night, Blake, she countered smoothly. I was going to tell you, but I knew you'd overreact because of your issues with Austin. My issues. I'd never even met the man. I trust you, I said finally, though the words felt hollow. But I need to know you're being honest with me. Lauren's relief was palpable. She promised complete transparency moving forward, even suggesting I join her for the charity event planning. Somehow, that meeting never materialized. A week later, my friend Jason spotted Lauren and Austin having lunch at an out-of-the-way bistro, their heads close together, hands occasionally touching. When I brought this up, Lauren accused me of having her followed. I can't believe you don't trust me, she said, turning the tables so effectively that I found myself apologizing. The weeks rolled on, wedding plans accelerating. I threw myself into my veterinary practice, staying late to perform complex surgeries that other vets might have referred out. One night, after successfully removing a tumor many colleagues would have deemed inoperable, a client hugged me with tears in her eyes. You're an actual miracle worker, Dr. Harrington, she said, cradling her now-recovering Labrador. That moment of professional pride contrasted sharply with my personal doubts. In my practice, I trusted my instincts implicitly. Why was I ignoring them in my relationship? That night, Lauren came home late again. The lie was ready on her lips, client emergency, but this time, I noticed a nightclub stamp on her wrist that she'd failed to wash off completely. I said nothing, but I made a decision. I would set aside my suspicions until after our last pre-wedding event, the joint bachelor/bachelorette weekend in wine country. One final chance to see if my doubts were justified or merely cold feet. Our joint bachelor/bachelorette weekend was set at a luxurious vineyard resort 2 hours outside Portland. Both our friend groups mingled, sampling wines and enjoying the spring sunshine. Lauren appeared completely devoted, rarely leaving my side except when her bridesmaids pulled her away for pre-planned activities. The trouble began our second night there. During dinner, Lauren's phone kept lighting up with texts. She excused herself repeatedly, each time returning slightly more flustered. When she stepped away a third time, her maid of honor, Tiffany, gave me a strange look. You know she's been talking to Austin all weekend, right? Tiffany asked, slightly tipsy from the wine tasting. The table fell silent. Lauren's friends looked uncomfortable, mine confused. Tiffany, shut up, Lauren's sister hissed. What? He deserves to know, Tiffany continued, oblivious to the tension. She invited Austin to the wedding. Didn't you know? I felt the blood drain from my face. No, I said quietly. I didn't know that. When Lauren returned, she sensed the changed atmosphere immediately. I asked her directly, in front of everyone, if she'd invited Austin to our wedding. It's not a big deal, she said defensively. He's still part of my professional circle. It would look weird if he wasn't invited. That's not what you told me last night, Tiffany interjected. You said, enough. Lauren snapped, but the damage was done. I excused myself and walked out to the vineyard's terrace, needing space to think. Jason followed, concerned. This isn't right, man, he said. Something's off with her story. I nodded slowly. I know. Later that night, I overheard Lauren arguing with Tiffany in the hotel corridor. You could have ruined everything, Lauren hissed. Blake doesn't need to know about Austin and me. He deserves the truth, Tiffany insisted. If you're still hung up on Austin. I'm not, Lauren interrupted. But I need to keep my options open. Blake's stable. Austin's exciting. Why should I have to choose? I stepped into view, and Lauren's face went pale. Blake, I can explain. I think you just did, I said quietly. The weekend ended abruptly. I drove back to Portland alone, my decision already forming. I wouldn't call off the wedding yet, but I would be watching very carefully in the coming weeks. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear, contrary to the storm brewing inside me. I'd spent the weeks since the vineyard incident in a state of heightened awareness, watching Lauren for signs of deception. She'd been the perfect fiancée, attentive, loving, excited about our future. Almost too perfect. Standing at the altar of Portland's historic Rose Garden venue, surrounded by 200 guests in their finest attire, I scanned the crowd. And there he was, Austin Wallace, sitting confidently in the third row, looking for all the world like he belonged there. Our eyes met briefly. He didn't even have the decency to appear uncomfortable. The music began, and Lauren appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm. She was breathtaking in her gown, her smile radiant as she approached. For a moment, I almost forgot my doubts. The ceremony proceeded according to plan until we reached the vows. Lauren had insisted on writing her own, a suggestion I'd eagerly agreed to months ago. Now I tensed, wondering what she would say. Lauren took the microphone, her smile dazzling the crowd. Before I share my vows, she began, I want to acknowledge someone special here today. My heart stopped. Austin Wallace, my dear friend, who has supported me through so many chapters of my life. The crowd murmured in confusion. I stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. In many ways, Lauren continued, her eyes finding Austin in the crowd. The love of my life and my best friend. Gasps echoed through the garden. I saw my parents exchange horrified glances. Lauren's mother covered her face. Then Lauren laughed, high and bright. Just kidding, everyone. You should see your faces, especially yours, Blake. She turned to me with a playful smile. It's just a little prank. Austin's been such a sport about playing along. Silence fell over the gathering. Lauren's smile faltered slightly as she realized her joke had fallen flat. Go on with your actual vows, dear. The officiant prompted gently, clearly trying to salvage the moment. But something had shattered inside me. In that moment of stunned silence, everything became crystal clear. I stepped back, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm afraid I can't continue with this ceremony. Lauren's smile vanished. Blake, it was just a joke. Then here's my punchline, I said, loud enough for the front rows to hear. I'm pulling out of this wedding. We're done. I walked down the aisle alone, maintaining my composure despite the shocked whispers and stares. Only when I reached my truck did I allow myself a moment to breathe, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Behind me, the perfect wedding descended into chaos. I drove aimlessly for hours after leaving the Rose Garden, eventually finding myself at the coast, watching waves crash against the rugged Oregon shoreline. My phone had exploded with messages and missed calls from Lauren, her parents, my family, our friends. I silenced it and focused on the horizon. The first person I actually spoke to was Jason, who found me at the beach house I'd rented on impulse. How did you find me? I asked, letting him in. Remember when we installed that tracking app during our camping trip last year? He shrugged, figured this qualified as an emergency. Jason handed me a beer and sat across from me, not pushing for explanations. That's what true friendship looks like, showing up and just being there. Finally, I asked, how bad was it after I left? Nuclear, he admitted. Lauren was hysterical, alternating between crying and screaming that you'd humiliated her. Her parents tried to control the damage. Austin slipped out pretty quickly. I nodded, unsurprised. And everyone thinks I'm a villain. Not everyone, Jason countered. Your family's behind you 100%. And Lauren's stunt with Austin didn't go over well with most guests. My phone buzzed again, Lauren's 20th call. I sent it to voicemail. She's been calling nonstop, I explained. Plus about 50 texts ranging from apologies to accusations. Jason nodded grimly. You should see social media. She's playing the victim, claiming her harmless joke was misinterpreted and you abandoned her at the altar. Classic Lauren, I said bitterly. Spin the narrative. Over the next week, Lauren's campaign intensified. She showed up at my clinic in tears, forcing me to have her escorted out. Her mother called my parents, insisting I was overreacting. Even some mutual friends suggested I should get over myself and reconcile. I wavered once, agreeing to meet Lauren at a neutral location. She arrived looking devastated, eyes red from crying. It was just a stupid joke, she pleaded. I thought it would be funny to acknowledge how jealous you've been about Austin. I never meant to hurt you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw clearly for the first time. The joke wasn't the problem, Lauren. It was just the final proof that you've never been honest with me about Austin. You invited your ex-boyfriend to our wedding and publicly called him the love of your life. Joke or not, that revealed your true feelings. That's not fair, she protested, tears flowing again. Maybe not, I conceded. But neither was lying to me for our entire relationship. As I stood to leave, Lauren grabbed my arm. Please don't go, she begged. I love you. I need you. Her desperation seemed genuine, but it wasn't enough. Not anymore. Goodbye, Lauren, I said firmly, walking away from the woman I'd almost married. 2 weeks after what local gossips now called the Rose Garden incident, I returned to my regular life. My veterinary practice became my sanctuary, the one place where problems had solutions, where care and competence yielded predictable results. If only relationships were as straightforward as surgery. Late one evening, as I was updating patient records, my receptionist Megan buzzed the intercom. Dr. Harrington, there's someone here to see you. I expected Lauren, making another attempt at reconciliation. Instead, I found Tiffany, Lauren's former maid of honor, shifting nervously in the waiting room. I wasn't sure you'd see me, she said as I invited her into my office. Why wouldn't I? Because I was in Lauren's wedding party. I'm supposed to be on her side. She met my eyes directly. But what she did to you was wrong. Tiffany hadn't come empty-handed. She placed her phone on my desk, open to a text conversation with Lauren dated 3 months before her wedding. The messages were unambiguous. Lauren discussing keeping her options open with Austin, planning late-night meetings while I was working, complaining that I was boringly reliable while Austin was exciting. Worst of all, a message sent the night before our wedding. Tomorrow doesn't change anything between us. Once the dust settles, we'll figure things out. She's been playing both sides for your entire relationship, Tiffany said quietly. Austin never really left the picture. I scrolled through message after message, each one stripping away another layer of self-doubt. Why show me this now? Because she's telling everyone you're a controlling jerk who couldn't take a joke. She's painting you as the villain, and it's not right. Tiffany looked down. Also, I saw what she did to you. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you the truth. After Tiffany left, I did something I've been avoiding. I searched Austin Wallace online. His Instagram told the story Lauren had hidden. Photos of them together at industry events, often on nights she claimed to be working late. Never openly romantic, but the body language was unmistakable. Then I found it. A post from Austin just days before our wedding. Some people think they have to settle for stability when what they really want is passion. Why choose? The comments section included one from Lauren's private account. Truth. Why indeed? I forwarded everything to Jason, who'd been fielding questions from our mutual friends about my side of the story. I wasn't interested in a public campaign to clear my name, but I wouldn't let Lauren's version stand unchallenged either. That night, I slept better than I had since leaving the altar. The truth, however painful, was infinitely preferable to uncertainty. A month after our non-wedding, I was finally ready to close that chapter completely. I contacted Lauren to arrange a meeting to return her belongings and retrieve mine. We agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, boxes neatly packed in my truck. Lauren was late, a power move she'd always used when nervous. When she finally appeared, she'd clearly dressed to remind me what I was missing. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, wearing the green dress I'd always loved. Blake, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. You look good. Let's keep this simple, I replied, pushing a set of keys across the table. I packed your things. They're in my truck. You can take them now, or I could drop them somewhere. Lauren ignored the keys. I've been thinking about us, she began. We threw away something special over a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, I said evenly. I've seen the text between you and Austin, and your comments on his posts. Her composure slipped momentarily. You went through my private messages? Tiffany showed me. Apparently, she has a conscience. Lauren's expression hardened. So this is an ambush? You asked me here to throw accusations. No, I said calmly. I asked you here to exchange our belongings and move on with our lives. I don't need explanations anymore. I've seen enough. What you saw was taken out of context, she insisted, reaching for my hand. I pulled back. Austin and I are just friends. Yes, we flirt sometimes, but it never meant anything. I almost laughed. It meant enough for you to call him the love of your life at our wedding. It was a joke. No, Lauren. The joke was me believing you were committed to our relationship, while you kept your options open with Austin. I stood up. Your things are in my truck. The keys to my house are on the table. I've already changed the locks, but you can use these to access the garage where I've stored everything that belongs to you. Lauren's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, not the calculated kind I'd seen over the past weeks. So that's it. You're just walking away. You left me no choice, I said, feeling a strange sense of peace. I deserve someone who chooses me completely, not someone who keeps me as the safe option while looking for something better. As I turned to leave, Lauren called after me. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do. I paused, looking back at her one last time. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. 6 months after walking away from my wedding, I stood on the deck of my lakeside home, watching the autumn leaves drift onto the water surface. Time really does heal, though not in the way people expect. It doesn't erase the pain. It teaches you to carry it differently, to understand its value. The scandal of the Rose Garden incident had faded from local gossip. Lauren had moved to Seattle for a new PR position. At least that's what Jason told me. I'd stopped checking her social media months ago. Rumor had it she and Austin were officially together now. I wished them well, genuinely. Some lessons cost more than others, but I wouldn't trade what I'd learned about myself for anything. You about ready? Jason called from inside. Everyone's waiting. Today marked the grand opening of the Harrington Animal Rescue and Rehabilitation Center, a project I'd poured myself into after the wedding debacle. I'd expanded my veterinary practice to include a state-of-the-art facility for injured wildlife and abandoned pets, complete with public education programs. The work gave me purpose during those dark months when doubting my judgment had become a daily struggle. Coming, I replied, straightening my tie. The governor was scheduled to cut the ribbon in 20 minutes. As I drove to the ceremony, I reflected on how much had changed. My practice had nearly doubled. I'd hired 3 new veterinarians and a dedicated rehabilitation specialist. I'd even been featured in a national veterinary journal for pioneering a new orthopedic technique for injured raptors. The parking lot was packed when I arrived. Local officials, donors, community supporters, and about 24 families who'd adopted animals from our shelter program. My parents stood proudly near the entrance, having flown in from Arizona for the occasion. This is quite something, son, my father said, embracing me firmly. You've built something meaningful here. The ceremony went perfectly. After speeches and the ribbon cutting, I was introducing a group of potential donors to our facility when Jason appeared at my elbow. Someone wants to meet you, he said, gesturing toward a woman standing by the raptor enclosure. Wildlife photographer doing a piece on rehabilitation centers. She's been asking specifically about your work with injured eagles. I excused myself and walked over. She was studying our resident bald eagle with genuine interest, a tall woman with auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, camera hanging around her neck. Dr. Harrington, she turned as I approached. I'm Rebecca Winters. Your work here is incredible. We talked for nearly an hour about the center, about her photography, about our shared love of wildlife conservation. She asked intelligent questions and listened with genuine interest. Not once did she mention having heard about my infamous canceled wedding, though surely she must have. It had made regional news at the time. I'd love to feature your center in my next book, she said finally. Would you be open to a series of interviews over the next few weeks? I'd like that, I replied, surprised by how much I meant it. Later, after all the guests had gone and I was helping the staff clean up, Jason sidled up with a knowing grin. So Rebecca seems nice. Don't start. I warned him, though without much heat. I'm just saying, you were smiling. Really smiling, for the first time in months. I couldn't deny it. She's passionate about her work. It's refreshing. And single, Jason added innocently. I checked. I rolled my eyes but couldn't help laughing. One step at a time, man. That night, I sat on my deck again, thinking about the day, about Rebecca's genuine interest in my work, about how easy our conversation had been, about the possibility of something new. The old pain was still there, but it had transformed into something valuable, wisdom, resilience, a stronger sense of self-worth. Lauren had taught me what I didn't want in a relationship. Now it was time to discover what I did want. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca confirming our first interview session for her book. As I typed a reply, I smiled at the simple truth I'd finally embraced. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is not getting what you thought you wanted. Sometimes walking away is the first step toward finding something better.